Dandavats to and hello to all our viewers all over the world. We are very happy to start our broadcasting again with Sripad Hasyapriya Prabhu from California. And yesterday we had a very inspiring class, and we would like to have one more broadcast today and ask some more questions to Hasyapriya Prabhu, and please all the devotees, all the viewers, don't hesitate, and you can write in the chat message your questions. This is your chance to ask the questions, and I would like to start a little bit following the topics from yesterday. It was very inspiring to hear your stories about your association with the great gurus. And can you please tell us how you first met Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, and can you please tell us a little bit more about your association with him and how was it like?
I first met Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Temple. That's where I joined. And when I joined, he wasn't there at that time, but came maybe about 4 months later. And he would, his normal schedule was that he would get up very early in the morning, maybe 2 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and he would translate. That's when he would do his translation. So he had a dictaphone with a pedal, and he would do his translations and speak into the dictaphone. Later, somebody would take that and transcribe it, type it. But he would do that very, very early in the morning, and then later in the morning, after sunrise, then he would take a walk. Practically every morning he would take a walk unless the weather was really bad. And that was the time for, there would always be a small group of devotees that were invited to go with him, and that was a very kind of intimate time. If you had any questions, you could ask Srila Prabhupada. When I went on a few of those morning walks, and I have to say I was so new and ignorant, I couldn't even compose a question to ask him. But it was very informal, and he walked very quickly too. He walked very fast. We had to, make an effort to keep up with him. But that was his exercise, and then he'd come back, and then we would have, he would give class in the morning, Srimad Bhagavatam class, and then we would have Guru Puja and offer Guru Puja to him sitting on his Vyasasana. And like that, every day, that was the schedule. And so that was my first time to get his association, was in the classes. Every morning we would go to class and he would be giving class. During the day, sometimes there would be some informal meetings in his garden. He had a little garden in Los Angeles, and some of the devotees would go there. But generally, had our service to do all day long, and our time of seeing Srila Prabhupada and hearing from him was at that Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning. And he would take one sloka, read that, and then the whole class was on that one sloka. And then by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, he gave me initiation, Harinam initiation. After there was a standard at that time that you had to have lived in the temple for 6 months before getting initiation. And so I was passed my time, and I was accepted for initiation. And that was, Srila Prabhupada traveled a lot throughout the world. He had many centers. You know, he came first to America, it was in 1966, and so this was 1972, 73. It was only 6 or 7 years, but so much had happened so far, and there were so many centers. He would send devotees out just to go open a center, go to London, open a center, go this place, open a center. And nobody knew they couldn't do it. They just, Prabhupada told us to do it. We just, you know, did what he said. And it all worked out in a very miraculous way. You know, Srila Prabhupada was very, very studious. His writings are they present Krishna consciousness in a very dynamic way, in a very clear way. And he was also a very strong preacher. Sometimes some guests would come and he'd be preaching to guests in his garden or like that. We'd get some opportunity to listen in, and Prabhupada could be very, very heavy. Could, you know, take people who were, you know, on some nonsense platform and just completely cut them down. But in a way that they accepted it. They weren't offended. They weren't like freaked out. But he was so heavy. I mean, if any of us said any of the things that he said, you know, people would hit us in the face or something, you know. But the way he said it, his affection and his potency, and he didn't. But that was one side of him. Also, another side was that he was very, very affectionate, very kind, and tolerant. You know, we were all hippies practically. We didn't know anything about cleanliness. We didn't know anything about anything, and he very patiently taught us, you know, the basics of living in an ashram and the basics of Krishna consciousness. And like that, Prabhupada would come to Los Angeles probably more often than any of the other centers, but still he would travel to the other centers regularly, and so then he would leave and then come back, leave and come back, but that was our main connection and association with Srila Prabhupada was in Srimad Bhagavatam class every morning. And he'd be sitting on the Vyasasana, accepting the worship of all of his disciples. And always looked very regal and very, but at the same time very humble.
And how did he associate with the devotees? Like, was he very open or with the devotees? Did he mix with them, or he was sometimes coming out and giving some instructions? Because
well, from my own experience, I didn't have that relationship with Srila Prabhupada, mixing freely. I was a new devotee, and I didn't know how to act properly, and I was a little bit afraid. But you know, Prabhupada had a group of devotees that would travel with him or would come, and with those devotees he was much more intimate, and at that point ISKCON had developed. It was getting quite large, and so there started to be this hierarchy where Srila Prabhupada would instruct his circle of servitors, and then those servitors would come and instruct us. And so it became more like that. But yesterday I was talking about his relationship with Swarup Damodar Maharaj, and very, very wonderful relationship, and Prabhupada loved to argue, loved to philosophically argue, and so when that opportunity came with Swarup Damodar Maharaj to discuss the scientific atheistic philosophy that was prevalent then and still is prevalent now, you could see Prabhupada took great joy in smashing those arguments. And Swarup Damodar Maharaj took great joy in being smashed. So, Srila Prabhupada gave us instructions. His mission was book distribution, and we understood that. It was very clear that he wanted us to go out and sell his books, and not just give them away, because he gave us some instruction that if somebody paid money for a book, they would have some respect for that book. If you just gave it to them for free, they would just throw it away. It wouldn't be so meaningful to them. So it was our service to go out and collect and sell books. And this was, we knew this was the most pleasing service that we could do to Srila Prabhupada, for Srila Prabhupada. And we tried to do it as much as we could. Some devotees were very good at it. I was not one of them. I was then, because I wasn't very good, I was pulled out and put into management, so that became my service. So I would organize the devotees going out collecting and selling books. But this was something that we understood very clearly from Srila Prabhupada, to chant our rounds, follow the regulated principles, and serve. And of all the services that we could do, the service that he emphasized the most was preaching. And his preaching was selling books. Because he had instructed us that these books would be like time bombs. Time bomb is a bomb that someone puts a timer on and then they leave it and they go away, and when the time comes it explodes. So in the same way, these books may sit on somebody's shelf for a long time, years, and maybe somebody comes in to that room, maybe they don't even live there, they're their friend's house, and they see that book, and then they get some connection with spiritual life through that book. So it was everything was very clear to us at that time, very simple. It wasn't complicated life, simple life, and very rewarding too.
And how, when you were distributing books, how did people take it in those days? How was it?
Yeah,
how did you approach them?
Any way we could was the. We at that time we started wearing regular clothing. Before we would go out in a dhoti, kurta, stand at a supermarket and sell Back to Godhead magazines. We'd go to every neighborhood, any place, and we would always have like 2 or 3 places because we knew we'd get kicked out, and we'd go over to the next place and go, or we'd go downtown Los Angeles, and maybe we'd use incense. We'd give a person a piece of incense, and then they would stop walking. They'd smell the incense, and while they were smelling the incense, we'd convince them to take one of our Back to Godhead magazines and give a donation. But basically it was donations. We were just we didn't have a price tag on the books. We didn't say, this is the amount. But what was the reaction? The reaction was, I would say the poorer the people that we approached, the more receptive they were. The richer the people, the less receptive they were. There was that, that kind of dichotomy. Poor people were more humble and generous too. They're generous. Americans are generous in a general sense, very generous. So then things changed a little. We started wearing a regular dress. Sometimes we'd wear wigs because we were all shaved up all the time. It was a very kind of unique experience, young person, shaved up, and then you turn into this other person, put on a wig, and go out and collect. But, it all was, it's just what we did, and we knew that this was pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, and we just wanted to do it. And devotees would go out every day, 7 days a week. And when I started managing the Sankirtan, I would have to get up before Mangal Artik and chant all my rounds. Because after Mangal Artik, already the devotees would be in the room ready to go out. And I'd have to get the car keys, get this, get that. So from Mangal Artik to like 9 or 10 at night, devotees would be out collecting. Full of energy, and come back very enlivened, very enlivened.
And we already have some questions that came from internet, from our viewers, and the first one is, what do you think helps people to progress spiritually the most? Because you've seen so many different stages of Krishna consciousness, so many different ways of how people practice. So according to your experience and feeling, what helps people to progress the most?
This is a good question, because this is the question we're all asking every day. How can I progress in my spiritual life? And the basis for progress in spiritual life is sukriti, is good fortune. And good fortune comes from service. Service. We meet, in our preaching, in our life, and everything, our activities, we're meeting people in all stages of spiritual life. Never heard of it, not interested, heard of it a little bit, maybe a little interested, inquisitive. An older devotee who maybe, spent many years practicing Krishna consciousness and then kind of gave it up and now is, not so interested. So everybody is in a different position in their spiritual life. And our spiritual life isn't going in a straight line. It goes in a zigzag way. And so sometimes, we're moving very quickly and progressively, and other times it seems like we're moving backwards. So in all of these situations, whether we're happy, whether we're sad, whether we're tired, whether we're full of energy, then service is what saves us. Service in the association of devotees, under the guidance of a Vaishnava, gives us, keeps us on that path. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained that Krishna consciousness doesn't happen like that. It's a gradual process. Gradually helps, purifies us. We shouldn't think that now I got initiated, now I'm chanting. Oh, next week I'll be a pure devotee. I won't have any, I'll be in ecstasy all the time. I mean, maybe somebody is that fortunate where they've done so much service now, they just need that final thing. But certainly that's not the situation for myself. Certainly not the situation for others. But I think it's very important that we stay on the path, that we don't stop. And staying on the path of devotional service means we're always trying to do something. Chant our rounds. When we took initiation, we promised our spiritual master we would chant the holy name every day. We would follow certain principles. These things are, it's not punishment. These are things that are helping us, that are giving us some nourishment and energy to move forward. So there's always some opportunity to do service, and we can't wait for the right time, because the right time will never come, because our mentality is one of mundane desires. And so when is the right time to give up a mundane desire? It's never going to be the right time. You just have to do it. You just have to do some service in whatever capacity you have. We know that this is a heartfelt transaction. This is not a mundane transaction. It's a heartfelt relationship. And so what can you do today to serve the Vaishnavas and Guru, Krishna? What can you do this moment? And that changes. That changes every day. But that's what we're praying for. We're praying, we're chanting Hare Krishna and praying for service, for that connection through service. So, so I think this is the most important thing, that service keeps us nourished and keeps us moving in a positive direction. Of course, we have to avoid the offenses. Some very serious offenses can ruin our spiritual life. But generally, those are very rare. Those very serious offenses, they're very rare. Mostly, we just have to try to be kind to the devotees and try to continue some service.
Now I'd like to ask about your association with Srila Gurudev. Since you've been appointed as the temple manager, temple president, did he give you any like personal advice how to do this service? Any personal instructions, maybe some
personal
stories?
Chastisement.
Yeah, some chastisements maybe.
Yes, all of the above. When we first purchased the ashram in Sokel, Gurudev came and we had a fire sacrifice. Gurudev arranged for a fire sacrifice. Sagar Maharaj and Janar Maharaj performed that. And then during that time, I was sitting with Gurudev. He had left the sacrifice and he was sitting out in the sun. And then at that time, he asked me to, Janar Maharaj can take care of the spiritual well-being of the devotees, and then you can take care of all of the other activities. So that was the first time Srila Govinda Maharaj asked me to do that service, and then that's what I've been trying to do for the last 20 years, to continue serving, and everything else means everything else, you know. And Srila Govinda Maharaj came many times to Sokel. Things were not always harmonious. We fight amongst ourselves. Surprise, surprise, but we do that. And Govinda Maharaj had to, give us some chastisement to get us back in a harmonious position. And Gurudev was very, very brilliant, and he knew everything that was going on. And he knew the money we were spending, even though, we weren't giving him regular reports, but whenever the discussion turned to money, he knew everything. He knew how much was coming in. He had it all calculated. And he knew what people were thinking, what was in their heart. And we felt that too with Gurudev, that even though we may be shy to ask for some advice because something was very personal, and Gurudev could extract it and read our heart and then give that advice. And I felt that sometimes with Gurudev, and others felt that too. One time I was in Navadvip with Gurudev, and that was before the internet, before email, before cell phones. This was, Gurudev had a land phone, which very rarely worked. It was unusual that it worked. And so most of the communication between the devotees around the world and Srila Gurudev was with letters, written letters. Put a stamp on the envelope, and mail it, and the mail would be delivered, and then letters would be read. And one time he was hearing some correspondence being read to him, and he started to explain, how does he know what's going on with the devotees all over the world? So he said, I'm hearing from the devotees through these letters, sometimes a phone call. I'm asking other devotees, how is this person doing? And Krishna in my heart is giving me some guidance to help. And so that was our firm faith in Srila Govinda Maharaj, that Krishna in his heart was giving him guidance and helping him to help us. We felt that. But over the years, traveling to India and then Gurudev coming to Sokel, I was very, very fortunate to have his association and his instructions and his guidance on many, many subjects. Probably the guidance that always stands out as the most the topic that he most talked about and preached about was humility, tolerance, and offering respect to one another. I just can't think of a lecture or a talk that he didn't make that point. And Srila Govinda Maharaj was very, very accessible. His door was always open, which kind of disturbed us sometimes because we knew he needed his rest and, something, some privacy for something. And then, we tried to maybe make some restriction, and then Govinda Maharaj would just make us open the door and welcome everyone in. And he explained to us once that he had gone to Mayapur to see Srila Prabhupada. He had a message from Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And the devotees in Mayapur, the ISKCON devotees, didn't really know who he was. They didn't know who Govinda Maharaj was, because Govinda Maharaj was very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And so they had him sit and wait. And he had to wait for some time. And then when Srila Prabhupada realized what was going on, he was like aghast. And he, apologized. Oh, so sorry you had to wait. And so Govinda Maharaj explained one time how that experience, he never wanted anybody to be put through that experience who came to see him. Might be somebody very important, might not be, might be somebody just a common devotee, just anyone, but he didn't want them to be forgotten like that. And so he had this open door policy was always available, and in the earlier years, he would have darshans every morning, and darshans would start very early in the morning, 3 o'clock maybe, and we would all cram into his room, wherever his room was. There would always never seem to be enough room. It would always seem to be packed, and Govinda Maharaj would just talk, and you could ask questions. You could ask any question you wanted. Anybody could. There was no restriction like that. And in that way, everyone felt welcome. Everyone felt welcome. He made everyone feel that way. And dealt with everyone in a very affectionate way. Maybe his signature was his affection. And then that, of course, brought out the affection of the devotees towards him. When somebody is treating you that way, then you want to be a better person. You want to treat others like that. You want to reciprocate. And so it was almost miraculous the way he was able to encourage us to be a better person, a better devotee. And this is not just my experience, but this experience of so many devotees all over the world who had association with Srila Govinda Maharaj.
If possible, I'd like to ask and you've been already the temple manager when Avadut Maharaj came
Yes.
and joined. Can you please tell something about this when he first came? And
him and Satyasundar.
yes. And
I have to tell you this about Avadut Maharaj, is that one time I was in Calcutta with Srila Govinda Maharaj, and Avadut Maharaj came, and you all know Avadut Maharaj. He's like in and out, quickly, right? And so nobody knew exactly when he was going to come, and he just arrived, And we were just sitting with Govinda Maharaj when he came in, and Govinda Maharaj was so happy. He was so happy to see Avadut Maharaj. He was like a little child. He was, had him sit right next to him, talking to him. What's going on with this? What's going on with that? And it was just a remarkable exchange that I can still see in my own mind. Srila Govinda Maharaj's smile and how happy he was to have to be there with Avadut Maharaj. It was very, very wonderful. And that was the affection he has and had still has for Avadut Maharaj. But Govinda Maharaj was there in Sokel when they came. Came, I think, maybe from New York, and they had a very, let's just say he was always Avadut. Had his own style, and but charming, very charming, and very dynamic, very, very wonderful.
We have this very sweet and great video of how you record the songs of the heart, the CD, that I think it was in Sokel also. Srila Gurudev sings all their bhajans.
I wasn't
and other
involved in
songs.
that.
You were not there?
No. So I can't really speak about that.
That was very, I heard that was like a new thing to record like this, and I thought you might know.
Is that
some
the one
story
that
about
Srila
it.
Govinda Maharaj is playing the Madanga?
I don't remember him playing Mridanga there, but he was singing with all the devotees there, and it was very hot in the room, so sometimes they had to stop and everybody go out so the air would come. And Avadut Maharaj was like moving everybody around. He was telling Gurudev, like, I'm not telling Gurudev what to do, but if you can do this and this. And I heard that many senior devotees, they were like a little bit disturbed that he is like managing too many things.
I fortunately don't remember that at all.
And one more thing also I'd like to ask is that my personal experience about American, like our ashram is, and our community there, that we have very beautiful second generation of the devotees. Like we have so many devotees there who were born devotees.
Right.
And in Russia, we, like, our second generation is only popping up. So what is it like, and what is your advice, and what are these kids like? They're born devotees, and
well, I can tell you what Govinda Maharaj's advice was, because he discussed once about children living in the ashram, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it because he felt that when a child is growing up, he should be a child. And in the ashram, there's so many restrictions. Like we've had children living in the ashram, and then their toys become like communal toys. On Sunday, when there's, all these children come, all of a sudden that kid's toys, get used by everybody, every kid. And so that's a small example, but in a way, it's not a natural environment for a child to grow up. A child needs that nourishment, that affection, and that safety. And so Govinda Maharaj was very concerned about that, and he cautioned me about children living in the ashram, and he was afraid for my son too, because when we moved to the ashram, he was 12 years old, and but he said, if they grow up and they don't have a childhood, later they'll be angry about that. They'll feel like, oh, I missed something. And so he felt it was very important they have, a childhood that was, I guess a regular childhood, not an ashram childhood. And so most of the devotees that have grown up, who are, like you say, the second generation devotees, now we have third generation devotees also popping up. And most of them didn't live in the ashram, didn't grow up in the ashram. They grew up in the community, and then their parents would come to the ashram. Sometimes, some devotees come every day, some come once a year, and then everything in between. So, and again, everyone is different, and just because somebody has taken birth from Vaishnava parents doesn't mean that person will be a Vaishnava. And we can see even in one family, 3 children, each child a different path. One, very much involved in service to the ashram, one completely rejecting it, one kind of like in the middle. So, our son we feel very fortunate. He was turned out okay. And I don't know what we did right, but I guess we did something right. But he also had a lot of association with Srila Govinda Maharaj. We'd go to India. I would travel with him sometimes in Russia. He traveled in Russia with Govinda Maharaj. And I guess the best thing is that if children learn not by what we say, but what they see us do. Right? So we could be saying, oh, you have to be a devotee, you have to do, but if we're not doing it, then, they perceive that. They're very smart. And so, my feeling is try to be the best example you can be to your children in your devotional service. And that's all you can do. You can just, present it in a very sincere way, but whether they take to it or not is their choice. They have their free will. They have their karma. They have their sukriti. But I think that would be my advice is for the parents, all parents, to try to be sincere and show by your example your dedication to Krishna consciousness. Then hopefully your child will learn from you. Also, there is another aspect to Srila Govinda Maharaj, and that is his mystical side. Srila Govinda Maharaj is a very mystical person, and I think Bhakti Lalita, you wrote an article once about the son of Lord Shiva, how he was known as the son of Lord Shiva when he was born. And around him, very mystical things would happen. Miracles. There are many stories from the devotees around the world who were witness to these miracles. One famous one is when the land for our center in Vrindavan became available. There was, at that time, as I was saying earlier, this was before cell phones, and it was all landlines, and landline in Navadvip was very unreliable. And so sometimes that phone would be broken for days on end. And so Srila Govinda Maharaj would periodically pick it up, see if there was a dial tone, put it down. No dial tone, it's still broken. And then maybe, sometime later in the day, check it again. So then, like that, one time he just picked it up and somebody was talking. And it was Krishna Vallabha in Vrindavan. And he was telling Govinda Maharaj, oh, this land has just become available. It was in some litigation, and now that litigation is finished. And it has to be sold immediately. And so many people want this land because it's very prestigious land. But they want to do maybe some business or some non-devotional activities with it. And we want you to have it because we know it will be protected under your spiritual guidance. So you have to come right now to Vrindavan to sign these papers and take possession of this land. And of course, Govinda Maharaj, couldn't go himself. And then, Krishna Bala was telling him, the money has to be paid, but don't worry about the money. If you can't get it right now, I'll put the money down. You can pay me back later. But just, somehow or other, take possession. So then Govinda Maharaj heard all this and put the phone down. Then he picked it back up again. It was dead. Still no dial tone. So the phone was broken for days. And just he picked it up to check their dial tone, and then Krishna Bala was talking to him. Puts it back down, it's broken again. So for days too, not like just for a couple of minutes. So of course, Govinda Maharaj sends Purnananda Prabhu to Vrindavan with all the documents and everything necessary. And Purnananda, who's really trustworthy and competent to take care of these type of activities, takes care of everything, and the title is transferred into our mat. And and these type of activities would go on around Govinda Maharaj on a regular basis. And it was miraculous, very miraculous. Govinda Maharaj himself would say, oh, this was a miracle. I picked up the dead phone, and the phone is telling me, send one man now to Vrindavan to get this land. And then the phone is dead again. It's a miracle. So like that, there was many miracles in his life. His getting the medicine to cure Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Guru Maharaj. Srila Guru Maharaj's health was very poor. This was, I don't know what year. Do you know what year this was? The 60s or something? 70s? A long time ago. And his health was very poor for a long time, serious. Govinda Maharaj was living in Calcutta. Srila Guru Maharaj was in Navadip. Haricharan Prabhu was there in Navadip. Haricharan Prabhu was calling Govinda Maharaj on the phone. You must come back immediately. Srila Guru Maharaj is failing. We don't know if he'll last through the night. It was serious. His health was so serious. And so he gave that message to Govinda Maharaj, and Govinda Maharaj, was getting ready to come back to go back to Navadip, and he had to take bath, and so he's in the bath, and the water's running, and he's praying to Lord Shiva. Oh, he's praying, you're saying that I am your son, and I think it's true. And you, Lord Shiva, are the master of all medicine. Please send medicine to help Guru Maharaj. And so the water's running, and Guru Maharaj hears some sound, some voice. And it says the name of some medicine. But he's not quite sure. Was it like, did he imagine it? Was the water, making some strange noise? And then he says to Lord Shiva, please say it again so I can be sure. And then the same instruction comes. Kali Flas. So Govinda Maharaj calls Haricharan Prabhu and says, "Oh, Lord Shiva has just given me the medicine for Guru Maharaj. Give him this, give him that, and I'll be there as soon as I can." And so then he got on the train, and then Guru Maharaj was on his deathbed. He couldn't eat, he couldn't get out of bed, he had no energy, he couldn't do anything. And so then Govinda Maharaj gets the last train from Calcutta to Navadvip. It arrives something like at midnight. And he goes in, and there's Guru Maharaj sitting up, taking prasadam. And Govinda Maharaj said, "What happened? What happened?" So, you sent that medicine, and you cured me. And so in that way, Lord Shiva, Govinda Maharaj's father, sent this medicine to cure Guru Maharaj, and cured him from that ailment. It was very, very serious ailment. Cured him. And so then Govinda Maharaj said after that he became Guru Maharaj's physician, to the consternation of all the doctors in Navadvip. But Guru Maharaj trusted him. Some other medicine he gave him at another time to help with some headaches, and so then Guru Maharaj became totally trusted Govinda Maharaj to take care of him, and wouldn't take any medicine. If another doctor came and gave Guru Maharaj some medicine, he'd say, no. Govinda Maharaj can only give me medicine. I can't take your medicine. So if Govinda Maharaj gave his approval, then Guru Maharaj would take the medicine.
What is the most famous or favorite miracle that happened in America with Srila Gurudev?
I don't know too many little miracles. I mean, we all feel that the way he treated us was a miracle. You know, his such a personality for us common people to meet such a personality, it was miraculous. That he would take interest in us and help us and take care of us like his children. But some things happened in Sokel that he said we had some problems with a neighbor, and some really demoniac neighbor. He complained about everything. If a devotee was walking down the street chanting on his beads, this man would complain. You know, everything. He just, I don't know, had some hatred for us. And he caused so many problems, so many legal problems for us. We had to deal with that, and for many years. And then he was, his family is a very wealthy family. They owned some international business, and so he had requested to be transferred to their Switzerland office. He wanted to be in Switzerland. And he's very wealthy. Would drive down Rodeo Gulch in a Bentley, you know, one of the most expensive cars you can buy. And he'd have like a number of those, you know, different colors. And so anyway, so they approved his transfer to Switzerland. He sold his house, and then his transfer fell apart. But he had already sold his house. And the people that moved into his house were very, very favorable, very nice people. They liked us. And I told that story one year to Govinda Maharaj because he was asking me about them, because he had caused so much trouble, and he was infamous. And Govinda Maharaj looked and he said, some assistance is coming to us from a higher plane. So then I could understand, something was happening somewhere else beyond our vision to make these arrangements.
So how do you think now, is there still some assistance happening
Yes,
from the
absolutely.
higher plane?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, we feel that. Well, when you, an ashram, a temple like this is not a mundane activity. There's always things happening on a higher plane. And it's not a karmic thing. It's not like it's your karma to make money and so then you'll have so much wealth. That's karma. But an ashram, a place to worship Sri Giriraj, Sri Radha and Krishna, Gurudev, to worship Gurudev, to serve the Vaishnavas. We can't see that that is mundane. That's not mundane. And and we see that what we can do to help, that service, that is some service given to us by the mercy of Gurudev. Not that we're qualified for it, but by his mercy, he's made this arrangement so that we can have some place of service. So, yes, there's always some anonymous, miraculous happenings going on. From time to time we see them and we can say, oh yes, Gurudev is protecting us. And also, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he also talked about this concept, the unseen guardians. That there are Vaishnava guardians who we don't see that are giving us some help, some protection, some guidance. And this is part of the spiritual reality. In the story of Gopal Kumar, when he's traveling through the different planetary systems, and then he sees at some point all these Vishnu Dutas arrive and they come and they give him some instruction, and then we understand from that these great Vaishnavas are traveling around looking for Krishna's lost servants to help us get back to him. So, yeah, we have to feel that way. We have. Govinda Maharaj would say how we have to see with faith. We can't see that something is going on a higher platform, but we have faith. So we see with faith that these things are going on. And faith is the cornerstone of our spiritual life. Faith. Goswami Maharaj was talking the other night about how faith is, this is the realm of a spiritual activity. It's not mundane. Mundane is calculated gain or loss, right? I put all the elements together, all the pros, all the cons, okay, and then make a decision based on that calculation. But faith is not like that. Faith is, we serve Gurudev's instruction because we have faith in Gurudev. that what he wants is the best thing for us and for others.
Okay, thank you very much
Jai
for your
Gurudev.
brilliant answers, and we wish to see you again soon here in Chiang Mai. Have a safe journey back
Thank you.
home, back to America. Oh, you going to India first?
Going to India
Okay, then.
for 2 weeks and then back to America.
Then we wish you double. Have a safe journey in India. And
Well, thank you very much.
visit us on your way back.
I very much enjoy coming to Chiang Mai. This is my 3rd visit, and devotees here are very kind and very sweet. Goswami Maharaj is, we've known each other for so many, many years, and I'm always very happy to get even a few moments of his association. And I'm hoping that one of these times that I come, I can also have Avadut Maharaj's association, other than just on the telephone or Skype. Jai Shri Gurudev Jai.